So I'm going to talk about something random again. It's pretty important, and it needs discussing more, I think, in communities around this. Any game really, it applies to all games pretty much. But I'm talking about Genshin Impact and Orchestra in this case, where it's sort of important, and its enjoyment is pretty much hindered by the fact that you can't really do anything in it without the resources. And I'm talking about even like story content, for example, in Honkai Star Rail at least. It becomes pretty much impossible to play without the right character investment. And this to me is a big issue. Because it means there's a lot to be done. And with limited resources, you of course have to wait for it, because it's like a daily refresh sort of thing. And there's also cases of this in MMOs and some multiplayer games even, and even little mobile games for that matter. But it's a red flag for most games because it means that you have a long-term investment in it, and there's a lot of waiting, and that's really something that players don't want now. It's been proven with the current influx in like single-player games, co-op games that are actually pretty decent. And it requires a lot of attention as well. But it's because those games are good and not resource intensive that they even become what they are. Like in Deep Galactic, for example, you pretty much naturally get all the resources you need, but even then, you can sell some and convert them, and that does something. And it's something that a lot of games are lacking, including Honkai Star Rail and Genshin Impact, because if you can descend a character, which I did a video on, and get the resources that you've spent on that character back, almost free of charge, with the caveat of you having to build them again, then you'd be able to just like, I don't know what to say, you'd be able to invest in another character, that's what I meant to say. And that's really important. Like, it's stupidly important. And it goes to show that this sort of feature can fix a resource limited game, and it can make it better. And for all the quality of life that Honkai Star Rail has over Genshin Impact, for example, it's absolutely baffling why they don't have it. Like, that's a free win there. What the fuck is going on over at HeavierFX? So, when I consider like other games like World of Warcraft, the reason I don't want to touch that again is because it's so grindy. And as much as you can sort of say like, oh, it's just a grind, it's only a few hours a day tops, it's not true. The point is that when people say come back from work, which I'm not working to be clear, but a lot of people are and have to do it more because of the shitty conditions nowadays and economics and stuff, all that rising. There's not much time to play games. So what's ending up happening now is people are playing games that they care about, that they have the time to put into. So they're not going to be playing Honkai Star Rail, Genshin Impact, World of Warcraft, you name it. Any live service for that matter, that's a time waste pretty much. And that's hindering all the game experience, and I know I'm like a tiny YouTuber, whatever, tiny gamer even, and I also have my own sort of issues. It's really a lot to consider in that. Because when your players are saying like, I don't like this and I don't like that, there's a fundamental issue with your game. And the fundamental issue I see in Honkai Star Rail and Genshin Impact is the limited resources. If we weren't in a situation where there was resin to spend in those games, then I wouldn't be talking about this and players wouldn't be toxic all the time. In fact, a lot of the players would probably be positive if it wasn't so resource fucking intensive. And it's ridiculous that this is even a thing still in 2024. And that's why, even though I still love the games for story at least, the gameplay is still lacking. And the graphics are decent. I'm quite a critic when it comes to little aspects like that. Or big, it depends. I'm just sick and tired of it. There's so much more that can be done. But there was a point that I've written down that I felt was really important, because in my current life situation at the moment, in real life, I'm going through some tough times with medication and mental health. And this is something common that I've noticed, is that the only way something can help me is if it's equivalent to or bigger or greater. And this means that the only way you can sort of treat issues is with equivalent or greater things. So depression, for example, it needs to be something really hopeful, like a big serotonin boost from sources that are medication, for example, because medication is not complicated enough, ironically as it sounds, to address depression. So there's a high failure rate on that, for example. And people who can like fake it, they tend to think it works. That's how it works, really. And yeah, but I need something equivalent to or greater than that to work. So it's not as simple as swallowing something and hoping for the best. So in gaming, that's sort of an analogy there is for it. When you're sort of depressed in a game, you're not feeling like you're at your best, the only thing to do there is to give something of greater value. And that's what all these games are missing. And it's led me to where I'm now thinking about the leaks and like engineering back to longer Star Rail. Like, why do people look at these? It's because people don't want to waste their money on it, or even their time, because they're paying with time as well, because of course Beamer Gems and Stellar Jades are running through playing the game. So obviously they're not going to spend on something they don't want, and they're preparing for it. So that's why they're looking at leaks. They want to know if they can skip a banner or skip a character, you name it. And it's so much more important now because, obviously with economic crisis and stuff, that's why. That's why it's just stupidly important, and why HeavierFX need to listen. Why I need to sort that shit out. And I wish I could say like, I don't want to say actually, mind. I'm not content with the games as they are because of the limits. Because if you think about how many characters there are that you get naturally, it's a ridiculous amount. And you can't build them all. You have to plan it. You have to research it. And then some characters don't perform as good as others, and that just ruins everything. And for example, like in Honkai Star Rail, I actually dished out all my Stellar Jades for Inhibitor Lune and his signature weapon, because that weapon's busted, apparently. And yeah, I don't regret it, but I'm always constantly thinking like, who's going to power creep him? Is there someone who's going to be like better? And it's just worrying, because that's why people exactly look into leaks. They want to know if their previous characters are going to be power crept, or even there's just going to be a new one that's objectively better. And so it led me to this term I created, which is similar to equivalent exchange. Resource limited gameplay requires desperate resource management. It's a bit of a mouthful, but it's pretty simple really. Resource limited gameplay is obviously the prison cap and Trailblaze power. And then the resource management is how you manage that. and all the other things that are sort of tied to it, like relic farming, artifact, and whatever. That's why people end up looking at leaks. Because what can they build for when it releases that would benefit them greatly? And what don't they have to build for? Those are all important questions. And yeah, they lead to the same conclusions. Usually it's dependent on the player and their resources and what they need and don't need. It's also very simplified by flowchart. I do need a main DPS, yes. Then you probably want this character. If no, then is your DPS struggling? If yes, obviously you go for the new character, who's possibly better. If no, you wait until someone better comes along. And yeah, I think the final thing to say about that is, if you take out most of, if not all, the limits, you're just left with resource gameplay and management. And that's acceptable. Like, I can accept that. And considering I'm not exactly paying a prescription, I have a subscription for the game, it makes sense. Like, it's free, I can waste my time on it as much as I want, and other players want. And yeah, it's a really simple fix, and I'm not going to put up with delusional comments like, HeavierFX will never add this. That's not impossible. Like, nothing is impossible. But the point I'm trying to make is that the games can change, and if they do, it'll be even better. And that's why I feel it's necessary. So that pretty much sums up what I'm talking about anyway. I'm hoping HeavierFX makes changes at some point. I know, like, Honkai Star Rail, they increased the limit of trailblaze power, I think. But again, there's so much more that they can do. And it's not hard to do, exactly. Even if it's like a government restricted things, try to find a middle ground or way around it. Like, rules are made to be broken to steal the trailblazers' fucking line. It needs to change. These games can't continue like this, and eventually people are just going to burn out. And when you get all these, like, I guess you call them Genshin lights, which we are currently getting apparently, players are just not going to put up with it. They're just not going to touch the game. They've already got some preoccupied with them, and I think in terms of legal issues, I think this is huge and also should be addressed. Because people are not going to put up with it. They can only play 1 or 2 games at a time, more if they have more time, but again, it's a resource management game, and that's the crux of it. That's where the issue lies. If you have no resources, it may be probably a bit too easy, but it'd be more balanced. And you probably have a much less toxic community, like Deep Rock Galactic, for example. As I say, you can buy and sell and stuff, and it's not tied to player economy either, it's an in-game thing. But in that game, you have barely anything to worry about. You just mine, get credits, and level up and stuff, and use the resources for that, and weapon upgrades even. And that's it. You've also got skins, but that's besides the point. And people love that game because the developers put their heart and soul into it, and they treat their players like players. You can play it for an hour a day for a year or 2, and you still get as many rewards as you want. Like, even in 1 year I managed to, it was probably 8 months actually, I got every single skin, weapon mod, you name it, and cosmetic for that matter. So there's like a broader range of stuff, I don't know. It's just a stupidly good game, and it's an example of a live service done right, and you can really see it in the community reactions. Yeah, it just makes other games look like shit. So hopefully people are listening to this and obviously making a fuss about it because it's important. But I want the games that I've mentioned to do well, like World of Warcraft. It still has potential to do well, but resource management is a thing, and that's not a fun thing to do. Again, it depends on how much time people have to play. And also, like, how complicated can their job be? Like, that's the other thing to consider. Because there's different jobs that do different things to you, to your mind and your body. And that also takes into account like what sort of games you can play. Like, I know someone who does a stressful job, not too stressful, but it's enough stress that you come back with sort of bad memories anyway. And yeah, she doesn't really play games. And she used to, but eventually it's just too much and don't have the time, so she just wants something easy to do, like watch TV, read a book, and that's it. No input required, no skills to learn, that's it. And that's the way we're heading sort of in gaming now. And the more stressful a job is, the more likely they are to not really play games as much. And also with like family and stuff, you've got that to worry about. It's not a simple fix, but at the same time, something needs to change about it. And I'll leave it there.